It is super cold today in Texas, which is why I've decided to sit inside the office and do this video and not out in the garden like I normally do. I'm sure it is cold for everyone else just like it is here, but the weather is soon going to be warming up, especially for us in the more southern zones like 9 and 8 and maybe even 7. And it's soon going to be time to start thinking about what tasks you need to do as it starts to get warmer out and we start to come closer and closer to our last frost date. So some of these tasks you're going to want to just be prepared for once the last frost date hits, but some of these tasks can also be done prior to the last frost date as long as it's warm enough that day. So you're gonna have to choose which days are best for you to do these tasks, but I just want to run through a list of tasks with you guys should be preparing to do as it gets warmer and warmer outside. So I'm just gonna jump right into it, but if you are new here, hey, my name is Brooke Jones. I'm the oldest child here at Large Family Homestead. I'm also a certified Texas Master Gardener and have been since I was 18. And one of the things that I love to talk about on this channel is gardening. It's probably one of our biggest topics here. So let's jump right into the list. The first one is cleaning and prepping your beds for spring. Now, this does not apply to any specific bed, whether it's in-ground, it's raised beds, it's grow bags, doesn't matter. Same tasks are still going to apply to all. And those are to remove debris and weeds. You probably still have your dead plants on your trellis, in your beds. Soon it's going to be time to remove the dead debris and weeds from your garden beds and your in-ground garden areas and get those ready for new plants. Now, some of us have already started planting this spring, and if you're new here, make sure you guys go check out what you should plant in February if you live in Texas. But mostly that is actually going to apply to zones like 6 through 10 because those are the zones that Texas is in. Another thing that comes with cleaning and prepping the beds is adding a fresh layer of compost. You're also probably going to want to add a layer of mulch after that compost. So cleaning debris, weeds, and adding compost, it's going to be at your discretion when you want to do this. Here we've already started doing it, even though we haven't quite hit our last frost yet. Most of our beds have been cleaned up at this point. We've added more soil, more compost, more mulch to almost all of them because we have had a lot of warm days here and our ground hasn't been frozen solid until just recently. Next up is you're going to want to test and amend your soil. So just like this, where we were talking about adding compost, you're also going to want to test. Now, most of the time tests should be done every 3 to 5 years. But more often if you're trying to have a dramatic change or like last year or last time you tested it wasn't right, it was very far off, you'll want to test it again this year to make sure that you fix that problem. And normally you can get soil test kits pretty inexpensively at your local ag office. I believe that last time we tested ours, it was like $12 a test. And if you have different garden areas, you'll want to get a different test for each area. Raised beds, grow bags, those are going to be a lot easier to control than in-ground plots. So if you have poor soil quality, you may want to consider doing a raised garden, and that'll be easier to control the soil quality. So the soil test will help you check the pH. If you need to adjust anything with your soil, your local ag agent should be able to give you the best solution for you. And then you also want to add fertilizers and organic matters like compost to your garden areas. So this next one is not going to apply to everybody right away, and that is starting seeds and transplants, whether that means indoors or outdoors. So here in Texas, we've actually started a lot of plants outdoors, as well as even some indoors. A lot of our warm season crops are already being started inside, like tomatoes and peppers. And we've started some outdoor crops like lettuce, beets, turnips, cabbage, broccoli, onions, garlic, and we still have all of this stuff outside as of right now because our weather's much warmer here. Up north, you may not have anything in your garden yet because the ground is probably still frozen solid where you are, but you may be ready to start some things inside, or if you are in a warmer area, you may be ready to start some things outside. And like I said, we do a video every month on what you can plant that month, And we just did our first one this year in February. So make sure you guys go check that out if you haven't already. That's gonna give you a good idea, like I said, whether you're in zones 6 through 10. Next up, you wanna do an irrigation and tool check. For us in Texas, I would say that you probably should do this soon. And this really just means checking all of your tools, cleaning them, making sure that nothing is damaged and you don't need any replacements. As well as if you have irrigation set up, you'll want to check those as well and make sure you don't need any part replacements for that and that it is working functionally. Now, again, for those of us down here, you're probably gonna want to do that soon. Whereas for people up north, you may not be time to do that quite yet, but I do recommend checking your tools like your shovels, trowels, rakes, and things, making sure you have everything you need because right now these tools are relatively inexpensive. And as we get further into the year, they'll get more and more expensive because people will go in, get ready to plant, realize they need tools, so the companies will jack up the prices a little as we hit peak gardening season. So actually now is the best time to purchase these things if you need them. Now I'll leave a list of some of our favorite equipment and beds and things below. And a lot of these tools that I'll link down below we've been using for years. My next point goes back to the first one I was talking about laying down mulch or some sort of weed suppressant. So winter is actually the best time to do this if you can, or very early spring. You want to lay down any kind of weed suppressants before the weeds become a problem. Once the weeds become a problem, it's much harder to fight them than if you had just fought them before they were a problem. If you get them before they start sprouting and coming up, or just as, it's going to be much easier to fight them. Whether you want to lay down landscape fabric or you want to lay down cardboard and mulch, you're going to want to get these things now and get started on it very soon. Now I understand if you have a lot of snow in your area, then it's definitely not the best time to do that. But for us here in Texas, you're definitely going to want to do it soon. We're already starting to see weeds in our area like henbit, dandelion, and all of that other stuff coming up. Again, this one is going to apply more to southern zones now, but for you guys up north, you're going to want to be watching for this very soon, and that is pest prevention. As it gets warmer and we're getting into these warmer days, you're going to notice that the pests are coming back out. So you want to find natural ways to deal with these pests before they become too big of a problem. Personally, I've already seen ladybugs in our area, only on the warm days. And while ladybugs themselves are not a pest, they come out when the pests do, like aphids. So make sure you guys are watching for those, especially if you already have plants in your garden. And last but not least, it's time for you to start planning your layout for your garden, deciding where you want things to maximize your space. And then I also recommend figuring out how you can companion plant with things like tomatoes with marigolds or onions with celery to help deter pests and battle disease. And if you are a channel member of ours, you guys actually have access to the February monthly gardening checklist. And this is going to cover just like some basic need to know things. For each zone, I have in there zones 3 through 11 of what you should be doing if you're in that zone. So I hope you all enjoyed this video and found it useful to you. If you have any further questions or if you'd like to add to any of the thoughts that I just said, please go ahead and drop a comment down below. And if you know anyone else who does any kind of gardening, go ahead and share this video out with them. And don't forget, if you haven't already, to subscribe. We'll see y'all soon. Bye.